Let's get weird, buddy. Let's get weird.
Guys, where are we?
Well, if there's a bright center to the universe, you're on the planet that it's farthest from.
Welcome to the Outer Rim. Enjoy your stay.
Previously on X-Men.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun, and we're back talking comics. More specifically, we're talking Rogue comics. That's right, we're back talking Rogue here after discussing the backstory to the new Rogue, the Savage Land, basically the history of where this book, when this story first happened. We reviewed Uncanny X-Men 269 to kind of give a bit of the Jim Lee, Chris Claremont flavor of the original story before we dived into this Tim Seeley, bigger, longer version of it, more stretched out, like giving us more of the plot that we kind of didn't see. Uncanny X-Men 269 and Uncanny X-Men 274 and 275 were all divided stories. Part of Uncanny X-Men 269 was telling the X-Men side of the story, while Rogue was on her own solo adventure. She wasn't in a book all by herself. It was a shared adventure. And after 269 came the Extinction Agenda. Okay, before we get too far into what I'm talking about, how about I just do my little spiel and say, please like and subscribe the channel. If you're not a subscriber, like the videos, hit the bell for all notifications, all that jazz. Okay, enough of that self-promotion. Okay, so back in 269, when that story ended, there was a break because they did the Extinction Agenda, which took place over Uncanny X-Men 270, 271, and 272. When they came back with 273, I'm trying to think of what that story was. I have a vision of it in my head, and I'm not sure if I'm right about it. I'll sure fix that in editing to put what 273 was. But 274 and 275 were the return of like this story that they still split up. So over 274 and over 275, sharing the X-Men side of the story is this Rogue Savage Land story. So what Tim Seeley is doing here is just saying, screw all that. Let's just show the whole big story retold, with new art and more of the story, because it really was kind of I think that if Claremont could have done this story like as just giving her book and her book alone, instead of jamming in the two stories, I think that would have been, we wouldn't even need this book if they had let him have a few more issues. But I think part of me thinks because they were coming up on 275 that they really wanted to like get to a big moment, and so they had to share story time. I'm not for sure on that, but I'm just trying to think of like reasons why this book is even necessary. But I liked the idea anyway of retelling and expanding on one of my favorite books when I was a kid, because I mean, this was like right at the beginning of my introduction to comics. So a lot of these things were the first things I remember. So going all the way back here is just nice and fun and nostalgic. And yeah, it's not moving the needle. It's not changing history. Just like Madripoor Nights and Wolverine Deep Cut, they're not changing the world. They're just adding to the history and the richness of all these characters. And in Rogue, the Savage Land, man, I mean, we're forgetting that this story involves not just Rogue without her powers, But we've got Kazar and the people of the Savage Land. We've got Magneto. We've got Nick Fury. We've got all these mutates and the villain and everything that's going on there. There's a lot going on here. The thing about it though is like a lot of this, if you are me, you know a lot of this story. So this is like it says recap sugar because there is like to me it has this feel of a recap, but this story is they're trying to reintroduce this to a new audience. So I'm not taking offense by, oh my God, they're just going over the same thing. And this is, how dare you, Chris Claremont and Jim Lee's, blah, blah, blah. I can just imagine how some people are taking this. But I like Tim Seeley quite a bit. I really liked a lot of his books. And I also love this art by Zulema Scato-Lavina. Also, the colors by Rachel Rosenberg. Awesome. It reminds me a little bit of Guru FX's stuff. In fact, a lot of the art and the colors in this remind me a little bit of Kasara and Guru FX's style, kind of. But anyway, and I just really, really dig the way that they're expanding on this book. And some of this, like, I'm just going to be honest, I didn't, like read all of this. I kind of skimmed through it to get the picture of, oh, okay, I see. They're retelling this story. And then as I went along, though, I could see that, oh, she's on a bigger journey and they really are expanding on the story. So while it's not really filling in the gaps too much like Claremont stories were doing, this is just, again, like I said, taking an idea that kind of got jammed into several comics and then forgotten about between like 4 issues and then brought back. This is giving it its due in one 5-issue miniseries. And honestly, getting Tim Seeley in this, like, I don't know the story behind them getting this, just like I was talking about for the Deadpool Wolverine book that's out right now with Percy and Kazar. I'm like, I would want to hear like how they got these people to come back once again to books after, or returning to characters after they were done. Maybe did they come willingly, or did they have to kind of get talked into it, or what? Or I like to hear these stories, and I'll probably if I ever like look up somebody else's content on this, maybe I'll look it up and see if Tim Seeley was like his part in becoming a part of this story. Anyway, so without further ado, I'm not going to talk anymore about this. We're going to go panel to panel on this. But before I do, I did want to ask if anybody was interested. I'm really thinking about going back to the 2 issues that ended up sending Rogue through the Siege Perilous, mainly because, not just to give even greater context to how Rogue ended up here, but there's also the part about Master Mold and Nimrod that really interests me, because it has to do with that when Master Mold and Nimrod went through the Siege Perilous, with the help of Rogue, making sure that this happened, when they went in there, this was the creation of a character called Bastion that I think a lot of people now know because of X-Men 97. So I kind of thought, like, that's literally like how Bastion was made. And I'm kind of wanting to go back and look at those issues too. So let me know if there's any interest. I might do it anyway. I don't care. But like, anyway, let's jump in and go panel to panel for Rogue Savage Land and see just what I have to say about this book after the fact. Rogue. Oh, all right. Let's read Rogue, the Savage Land, #1. The Siege Perilous. It's some ancient magical crystal portal to the multiverse where one is judged by the highest powers that be. Ain't that just the most X-Men kind of thing ever? Identity, Rogue. Powers, super strength, invulnerability, flight, power, and memory absorption. So we can see here that this was when Carol and Rogue had been sharing the body, essentially. Well, I went through it, got pulled apart and put back together, figuring out to have my fate decreed by a cosmic muckety muck. So, we're seeing several versions of Rogue here. All like, I do like how they're showing this. Also, kind of looks like Pepe Larraz. But and maybe that's actually really cool. So they didn't really show this in Uncanny X-Men 269. They showed a different frame of like the smaller version of it. This is a much bigger version. They did show like the split apart version of her, like in the cosmic whatever the Siege Perilous is, the multiverse judgment area. They showed it kind of more in close up, but I do like that they showed like it's all versions of her that are like going through and being judged before she's popped back out. Instead, I dropped into my little pad in Australia wearing my birthday suit and minus the superpowers I stole from Miss Marvel. Now, I would say that that's even more racy looking in some ways than the one that Jim Lee did. Before I could even pull out a pair of Levi's, Carol Danvers came knocking. She ain't a fan of me. And she's basically a human F-15. So I ran, stopping only to borrow the powers of Gateway, because the girl just can't have enough portals in her life. This time, though, I didn't see a bunch of lives not lived or what have you. All I got was that tummy-dropping feeling of being in one place one moment and somewhere completely different the next. That's how I ended up in the Savage Land. The X-Men had been here before, might still be, so I yelled and yelled until my voice went hoarse. I realized I was a modern girl from a Caldecott County neck deep in a primordial era contained in a terrarium the size of my home state. That was a mouthful. Marvel presents Rogue and an untold tale of the X-Men. Heroes Never Come Home. Part 1. So Alive. And I was on my own. Now, it says an untold tale of the X-Men, but I mean, that's not quite accurate, but again, it's the full story. That's what I kind of wish they had said here. But the Savage Land is a really cool place. It's the Antarctica is hiding this place that nobody can really get to. Wish that was true in real life. But yes, once again, it's written by Tim Seeley, art by Zulema Scatto-Lavina, color artist Rachel Rosenberg, lettering by VC's Ariana Turn the Thing Mar. And then we got the editors. Rogue, arrival site. Also, I wanted that it's clear that like Magneto saw her like right away. So I mean, why did he take so long? I don't know. Could he been doing kind of like what Apocalypse does, which is like, I want to test their metal, like, can she survive without me stepping in? Or maybe he didn't want to see her at all. It was kind of like, I hope maybe she'll just move on or something. Unable to touch another person without absorbing their life force and memories, Rogue was already driven mad by her mutant powers. Now she strives to atone for her dark past and fight for a better world as one of the Uncanny X-Men. Previously on Uncanny X-Men number 247, to save the X-Men from a longtime adversary, Rogue sacrificed herself by forcing the threat and herself through a mystical gateway known as the Siege Perilous. Months later, Rogue re-emerged from the Siege Perilous, chased by a mind-controlled Miss Marvel. Saved by the teleporter gateway, Rogue now finds herself powerless, alone, and vulnerable in a way she hasn't been in years. So, that's a really big thing to bring up too is that she does not have her powers, all right? So she has to actually get by on her wits and her ability to just survive. And for her, as scary as it all is, and it's like, but now she can touch things. Now she can not be afraid as much. And so that's a lot. And for this character to now also be alone for the first time, she could actually touch someone and there's no one around. So I was going to have to play castaway until someone sent a blackbird after me. Fine by me. I figured my parents used to leave me high and dry for weeks anytime fish would go on tour. I could fend for myself. Somebody's a fish fan. Well, I found out pretty quick this wasn't nothing like scrounging fish sticks and energy drinks at the 7-Eleven. A few important lessons if you're ever planning on running around a Jurassic jungle in a one-piece and thigh highs. Number one, everything around's just as hungry and thirsty as you are. Oh. Well, excuse me, you crazy big bald horse-looking mother. Number two, don't ever drink from nothing bigger than a rain puddle. Number three, don't ever sleep in a tree. Number four, don't ever sleep on the ground either. Number five, and probably most important, if you're bashful, you best get over that quick, because the Savage Land will tear up your super suit faster than a couple of rounds with the Juggernaut. Exactly. Okay, yeah. Why didn't we just put the look? Just besides, even in my immodest state, I managed, figured out what to eat and what made my tongue go numb. I was saying that in the other issue too. Like what would it be like for her physically? Like if you just went there and started eating shit, you know what I mean? Like you're probably gonna get sick. Made note of which of my neighbors could be lived with and which ones definitely couldn't. I had fresh air and plenty of room to stretch my legs. Even the constant buzz of mosquitoes the size of my thumb was kind of nostalgic. Hell, for a river-living Mississippi girl, the days were fun. But the nights were hard. As long as I'd been here, I hadn't encountered any other people, not even some grunting monkey man with the club. My powers had made me so I couldn't be touched like a normal person since I hit puberty. I was used to being lonely, but I'd never been so alone. My powers also made it so everyone I touched had some of their memories vacuumed up in my little skunk head, where they hung about until they finally faded like the buzz of a cicada. Cody Robbins, Miss Marvel, Captain America, Wolverine, Storm. Now most days I'd tell you that was a curse. But during those nights, listening to them share their stories was the only blessing I had. The name of a good dog, the secret clubhouse password from the summer before 4th grade, the funny way Grandpa complained about rap music, electric touches they'd shared, first kisses and last. My mama'd never been around past dark to sing to me. I mean, that's really, that's a great, I want that on a shirt, man. Like like, this is what I mean by expanding is, they show like her diving and like going, oh, like looking through the jungle. They didn't get to go deep into this of what it was actually like for her there by herself. Like they kind of jump quickly in the Claremont story out of necessity. Well, and I also like that they got long shot in here. But I'd call what happened out there under a dome that kept the sky from freezing a lullaby. And then one night, I'd never heard anything like it. I prayed no one had. Low and mournful, it turned the warm sweat on my chest into ice. And after all that time I'd spent wishing for any kind of person to come visit me, I cursed myself for getting what I asked for. Now, that was not in the Claremont story at all. The shit that's walking around at night, that dude's got a knife. These guys are walking around. These are killers. And they're big, it looks like. Maybe it's just, might just be the composition of the shot here. Slish. Uh-oh. Their veins burned in warnings like the devil's blood flowed through them. I'd been through the Siege Perilous and thought I'd come out the same as I went in. But seeing those things, hearing their tortured wails, I thought maybe I was wrong. Maybe I never went back to Australia. Maybe after all I've done, all the people I've hurt, all the lives I've stolen, maybe this was my perdition. And that's another big thing about Rogue is that, like, even, as we go and we talked about this in Uncanny 269 about going back to Avengers Annual number 10 and how she stole Carol Danvers' powers, putting her in a coma for a really long time. And that was a pretty decent amount of time, wasn't it? And all the other people that Mystique had her hurt. And also, like, Rogue not even knowing that Mystique was her mom the whole time. Her mother was, like, sending her out on these missions, Great parenting. So, like, she's just carrying all this guilt, especially because she's, she carried around the thing about Cody Robbins, the first boy she kissed. She's so many characters. Most characters are tragic characters. I've talked about this a lot. And it's just like, again, this is the important part of the story. Like, what she's wearing in the jungle, that's just window dressing. They're not talking about her like she's some, just bimbo out there. There are, like I've said, there's tons of bimbo comics out there. You want to go after them for being sexist, that's what I'd say, but don't point at this book. I was in a daze after that, always looking back over my shoulder, freezing at the faintest howl of the wind. Set myself on finding someone who could tell me I wasn't crazy. Chief Nareel, maybe. I'd have even settled for Sauron, even. That would be a real desperate move to get Sauron involved. All I found was devastation and death, which didn't help shake the notion that this was the bad place. Guess that's why I didn't notice that Miss Marvel had arrived. Remember me? Now, if you didn't look at the Uncanny X-Men 269 video where we discussed how Carol and her, when they went through the Siege Perilous, Carol ended up on Muir Island, where at the time the Shadow King was operating in control of everyone there, including people like Legion, who is a fucking omega level character. And in order to find Rogue, she allowed the Shadow King to possess her, because then he would want to find her. So this was her way of getting back to Rogue. Now, I had also said in Uncanny 269 that this was about revenge. It's not. And I was wrong about that, because they were sharing the body. And when she split and she was chasing her, I forgot about the whole thing of the life essence situation. This wasn't her chasing her down to kill Rogue. It was because they can't survive by themselves. So she's at least just trying to get back into a body before she fades away, not knowing that the Captain Marvel that was in a coma is now binary. So it's a whole messed up thing where this basically her essence has kind of become a person but can't sustain itself. Or that she was looking for a pound of flesh because she lost at least that much from her own body. Our story's done. And that's when you come into the picture, saving me from turning into a walking dead and sending old Carol packing. So I gotta thank you big time. And that's something I'll ever get used to saying. Because now we're at the Citadel where Magneto's at. To Magneto. I simply picked a winner. You and the machines engineered by the previous occupant of the Citadel did the rest. Subject Rogue. Cellular degradation stabilized. Mutant genome damaged. But at the expense of your mutant abilities. Been losing them in fits and starts anyway with or without Sauron's contraptions. Besides, right now, I don't need them. Cause binary life force imbalance. I'm not alone anymore. Magneto? What exactly are you doing here? Devices that give and take powers. Ain't you learned your lesson? I am here, Rogue, because I have learned a lesson. The civilized world holds nothing for me. I no longer wish to be a part of Charles Xavier's dream, nor do I desire to thwart it. You got other house guests? No, and I was quite pleased about that. But as you've seen, there's conflict brewing in the Savage Land. Maybe some errant warriors saw this place and expected it might house a cache of weapons. So he's kind of here just like, I don't know. This is a little weird because it's just like, he just kind of wants to be away from everybody else. He sees like, he's also in this like transition. He's not himself either. He's going through some shit. So they're both going through it together. And again, we got the inner monologue of Magneto and Claremont's story where she kind of reaches out to him and he says to himself like, what, I'm not doing this, I'm already betrayed, like I'm. So you almost have to read both sides. It's kind of like how in like I remember Game of Thrones, like reading Game of Thrones and watching Game of Thrones, and how sometimes the context was lost in that show from the book to the show, even though it would have the same thing in there, but without the right context. Sometimes it's interesting. And so without the context of both stories, you could still say, well, he didn't, it's different now because we didn't hear that inner monologue. So we don't know if he would have done something in this story. Or might still. Or one of my failed mutates might seek revenge. That's right. So he's down there also like, I don't know, man. Maybe he wants to die a little bit. Maybe he thinks whatever happens to him here, but he's also defending himself. So I don't know. Maybe he's looking for something to feel alive or some kind of purpose. Maybe down there he thinks he'll find purpose again. But as any who come here will discover, though I may no longer be interested in the war. Aha. I will never withdraw from battle. Magneto, wait. That ain't no mutate. That's Zabu. Humph. Woof. He's Kazar's pet, or more like cat brother, right, fella? Yes, Kazar. I know him, the Lord of the Savage Land. We aren't friends. Now this is like Saturday morning cartoons kind of stuff. Kazar and Zabu. It just makes me think of stuff from like the 70s and shit. Yeah, well, being how you used to be, that ain't especially disqualifying. I don't know how to do a saber-tooth tiger cat noise. I think he's trying to tell us something, you know, like that old show Lassie. You ever see that? Yes, I have seen Lassie. Okay, Zabu, we know this game. Go ahead. That blonde jungle boy fall in a well or something? Oh, Lord. What did you do, beast? He didn't do nothing, Magneto. That's it. That's the sound I heard out at the falls. Those weird things looking for me must have found Kazar. So again, yeah, those things and everything else, that's not part of the original story, so this is more. My perdition is spreading like a disease. Something real bad happened to your man, bro. You lead away, kitty cat. You're weak. The machines are clear. Yeah, that's why you're going to follow me, right? No, I've removed myself from the affairs of man and mutant. What makes you think I care about the squabbles of primitives and animals? Rogue! We're coming, Jungle Boy. Yee-haw! Ting tang tock. Oh, okay. Wait, I'm coming. Subject Magneto. Cellular degradation destabilized. Mutant genome damage. Cause unknown. So something's happening. It's same thing is happening to him. Elsewhere. That call. I know it, or rather I know of it. The songs of the deep men. But that can't be what I'm hearing, because the deep men live only in the trenches of the Goron Sea. Peaceful isolationists who would never walk, for instance, walk up on land, clobber the son of the tiger, and stuff him in a cage.
You are correct, Outlander.
Jeez!
We would never leave our sea. But we would venture into the inhospitable surface lands to find a sacrificial offering of flesh that might make the gods take notice.
Great. It's such a great... Look at that. That's amazing.
Because our sea left us. Come, Kazar, walk with us across the land that was once the floor of an ocean, to a temple that has been abandoned by the gods.
Environmental collapse, tribal war, as resources dwindle, mass extinction of the weak. The savage land will inevitably and fundamentally change forevermore. At least that's what the science says, Priestess Zaladane. Science created this land brainchild, and scientists have abandoned it over and over again. These are mutates, Magneto's mutates, I believe. And that's Zaladane. Progress doesn't suit us. This world needs an unknowable infinite being to guide it. An invisible, inexplicable force to bring fear back to men's hearts. I've spent too long as priestess, my little mutate. Now I will be a god. Dun, dun, dun. We will return with Rogue the Savage Land number 2. Okay, so that was Rogue the Savage Land number 1. Now, I kind of did my reaction and review through the whole video, so I don't have too much to say here at the end other than like as I was reading this, because I kind of was reading this for the first time in a lot of ways, instead of just skimming it to like kind of get the gist of things and where it was going. Again, very good expansion on the original idea. I will definitely talk more about Zaladane and Kazar in the upcoming episodes that we do of this series. I've already got I can read Rogue the Savage Land pretty soon, but it'll be when we swing back around through everything else we're doing. Yeah, art on point, the story on point, the context of things. I mean, Tim Seeley puts it right out there. You're in the jungle. You're in a superhero suit that's basically a one piece. The Savage Land's gonna tear you shit up. But I do like also the expansion of these. What's going on with these creatures? Not see because Kazar like it's how they find the story, right? Those things that are coming from the sea, this abandoned sea, this what was an ocean floor. I want to know more about that story and where these guys came from because they seem to be here not really by like choice. Something happened to them and now they're here and they're teamed up with somebody who I'm sure it's probably Zaladane is manipulating things, but by how much? I don't know. So let's find out next time that we talk about Rogue the Savage Land with issue number 2. And I hope to get to that sooner rather than later. So anyway, if you like what we're doing here, again, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, hit the bell for all notifications, all that freaking jazz. And we'll see you on the next video, sugar. Bye. Ba-ba-ba-bum. Ba-bum-bum-bum. Bum-bum-bum-bum. 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 Ba-bum-bum-bum.